Normality has returned to the streets of Belgrade. But it's a normality that ordinary people fought to end. From the tumult of winter, life has gone back to a daily struggle for survival. The community has once again been cowed, and idealists who risked everything for democracy have given up believing.
People lost their faith, their hopes, because they saw that nothing changed after 88 or 120 days of marching. What happened was that they just replaced one set of people with another. Nothing went for the better. They remained the same. Now even the things are going worse.
Miroslav Maric was one of the student organisers of the longest mass protest ever staged. From across the city, Serbs of all classes marched every day through one of the coldest winters in memory. Many, like Miroslav's mother, Golubica, had never demonstrated before. But after years of dictatorship and economic crisis, she felt the time had finally come to act.
You don't mind the rain and the snow?
No, she doesn't mind the rain.
Their protest forced the once impregnable Slobodan Milosevic to restore opposition wins in local elections that he had arbitrarily annulled. In their greatest victory, Zoren Djinjic, leader of the Democratic Party, became mayor of Belgrade. But the solidarity of the opposition movement has not endured. Its two former leaders, Djinjic and Draskovitch, have fallen out, accusing each other of treachery and betrayal.
He started to destroy, to crack down coalition zajedno, even in the middle of last winter demonstrations.
Njegova stranka I on želeli da tu lokalnu vlast vrše kao što Milošević vrši vlast u Srbiji. Znači monopolistički, sa dominacijom, bez kontrole vlasti, sa korupcijom, sa aferama I tu smo se vrlo brzo razišli.
For Miroslav's mother, Golubica, and all the Serbs like her who put so much hope and energy into the opposition, it was a bitter blow. For her, life has grown even bleaker.
Nisu se na bolje. Standard opada, ljudi nemaju para, penzioneri nemaju penzije, radnici nemaju plate, dosta je ljudi gladnih, otvara se nacionalna kuhinja, kako se to kaže. Tako da, nije dobro, gore je.
Golubica now supports the family by one day's cleaning a week. She and her husband's pensions have not arrived for 2 months.
Who do you blame for the fact that things have not got any better?
Pa raspad opozicije. Raspad opozicije, po mome mišljenju, Vuč je rasturio opoziciju. Gospodin Draskovitch.
The story of how it went so wrong goes back to the height of the protests. The apparent cohesion between Draskovitch and Djinjic as they walked side by side to lead each day's protest was a mask.
Znamo osobine jedni drugih I meni je bilo jasno da je gospodin Draskovitch čovjek koji je koncentrisan na svoju političku ulogu, ne toliko na pitanje institucija, ne toliko na pitanje demokratskih pravila.
Did you have any sense during the protests that he was planning to do this?
Yes, but I tried to hide that.
The two men finally split when Draskovitch decided to run for the presidency of Serbia, a position Milosevic was forced to vacate when his final term ran out. Djinjic had agreed to support Draskovitch in his bid in return for being made Prime Minister. But when it became clear that Milosevic would not allow free and fair elections, Djinjic and the smaller democratic parties withdrew their support and boycotted the poll. Draskovitch insists he could have won. He says he had bargained guarantees from Milosevic of greater access to state media than ever before.
We had, let me say, the best election conditions we had ever during last 7 years.
But still not democratic.
Not still, of course, but we never boycotted elections. In a period we had not any democratic conditions.
Draskovitch went on to contest the presidential and parliamentary elections, running a slick American-style campaign. But without the votes of other democratic supporters, he and his party finished a poor third. His revenge against his former allies was swift. His party, the Serbian Renewal Movement, voted with Milosevic's socialists to expel Djinjic as mayor of Belgrade.
You know, the man who destroyed coalition Zajedno, who committed such incredible and dirty things against coalition, against Serbian Union movement, against all democratic Serbia, the dreams from the winter's demonstrations cannot represent the city of Belgrade, absolutely.
The biggest winners from the disunity have not been the socialists, but a group many who marched here regard as far worse, Serbia's ultra-nationalists. They're a force that grew up alongside Milosevic's new socialism as Yugoslavia descended into civil war, but they've now come to challenge Milosevic himself. And with the collapse of the democratic coalition, many Serbians now see them as the only real alternative.
Vojislav Sheshel heads the self-styled Radical Party, an extremist group even by the standards of Serbian politics. He received the highest vote in the presidential election. Because of the boycott, voter turnout was just below 50% and the result was invalidated. But Sheshel looks set to win the presidency in a rerun to be held before the end of the year. He promises a government prepared to plunge the region back into war.
Državna tvorevina koja se naziva Unijom Bosne i Hercegovine, takva država nikad nigde na svetu nije postojala, ne može ni na Balkanu. Srpska krajina je okupirana od strane Republike Hrvatske i Srpska radikalna stranka je protiv bilo kakve normalizacije odnosa sa Hrvatskom dok se ne povrati cela teritorija okupirane Srpske krajine.
A na koji način?
Onaj način koji nam u perspektivi bude stajao na raspolaganju. Nijedan metod unapred nije isključen.
In his campaign video, Sheshel is portrayed as a man of the streets. As mayor of one of Belgrade's districts, he's cleaned up the area, built new community centres and streamlined the bureaucracy. But he's also confirmed the worst fears of his critics, bringing ethnic cleansing to his district.
People of Croatian nationalities, of Hungarian nationalities, are getting beaten up. You know, they get papers to get out of their flats, to get out of their shops, and everything. That is not the way. He even tried to make a Jewish synagogue into a disco club, which is in any country unthinkable. But here he can do it. And I'm afraid of that. If he comes to power, I'm afraid that this can only be worse. He'll probably make war to all countries in the world. That's the way he is. He's a great Serb nationalist. I don't like him.
But in the mess left by Milosevic and his Socialist Party, the promise of simple solutions to complex problems is an appealing message.
Mi ćemo u Srbiji zavesti red I disciplinu, uništiti državno-finansijsku mafiju. srediti financije, izvršiti privatizaciju, isplatiti sva državna dugovanja penzionerima, invalidima, deci, porodiljama, isplatiti staru deviznu štednju.
Tačno je da Šešeljev fašizam podsjeća pomalo na fašizam koji je 20. godina nastajao u Evropi, ali to je jedan impotentan fašizam. Fašizam 20. godina Mussolinijev i Hitlerov je bio fašizam jedne ekspanzije, industrijske, vojne. Šešeljev fašizam je jedan frustrirani fašizam, jedne krize u kojoj nema snage. Naša vojska je slaba, naša privreda je uništena, naš narod je dezorijentisan. Taj fašizam nije okrenut prema spolja, on je destruktivan prema unutra, on je samo autodestruktivan.
Faced with the bleak reality that Sheshel might be the next president, even the most idealistic supporters of the democratic movement are disheartened. Once the centre of last winter's student protests, today the campus is quiet. Many, like Miroslav and his friend Sanja, are struggling to make up for lessons lost during 4 months of marching. Despite their disillusionment, Sanja and Miroslav have continued to fight, but most of their friends who protested with them have given up trying.
The worst thing that happened is that the people lost their energy to fight. They are kind of tired. It took them 6 years to do something, to get their energy to protest, and now they didn't quite get what they wanted, so they kind of lost their energy.
Now, when Miroslav and Sanja march, they're joined by only a token number of protesters. In contrast to the thousands of riot police who shadowed the marchers last winter, they're followed by just 2 police vans, a sign of how little a threat they are now seen to pose.
Now they're not afraid of us because they know what we are doing. They know that we just go to march so they can, do whatever they want now.
They're not scared of the crowds because there are no crowds.
Well, yeah. Yes.
That's one of the things. They're not afraid, because basically there are so few of us, and they can bring up to, 2,000 or 3,000 police officers in a couple of minutes, And they don't need any cause. They can just start beating us because they can say we're disturbing peace, we're disturbing traffic. And the law will approve it. That's the saddest thing. They can never be wrong. The police is always right here.
Srpski policajci su naša braća.
But unless the next opposition boycott is successful, Sheshel is in the winning position to be president of Serbia. At the very least, he's the likely kingmaker. To regain power, Milosevic's Socialist Party would probably have to deal with his Radical Party. Draskovitch rules out joining either.
We are against both, against dying communism in Serbia and very, very dangerous growing, let me say, Nazi Bolshevism represented by Mr. Sheshel. I will force Mr. Milosevic to have a marriage, to go to bed with his own political son, Mr. Sheshel. He created him and he must sleep with him. I'm not ready to be involved into that marriage.
But few rule out any coalition in Serbia's chaotic politics, even between Draskovitch and Sheshel. The man he now calls a Nazi was once his closest friend. Both he and Sheshel were best man at each other's weddings.
Sheshel from that period and Sheshel later are 2 completely different men,
Are you still close? Are you friends?
No. Privately, privately I'm respecting privately anyone, Mr. Djinjic, Mr. Milosevic, Mr. Sheshel, but politically there's a big gap between our programs.
We believe that, at least I believe so, that it was not supposed to be like this. We fought for them, we stood up We stood up against the police, against the weather for 4 months, and they betrayed us. Because now there is no more coalition between Mr. Draskovitch and Mr. Djinjic. And there is no more democratic opposition. So I don't see where is the results that we fought for.
In Belgrade, few know what to believe or who to believe in. The winter of hope has turned into a summer of disillusionment. The people who inspired the world now appear too tired or too apathetic to fight. Serbia's tragedy is that its search for a better way may have led to something worse.